Start streaming. Okay. After a bit of a break, guys, here we are, back in the mix, back with another podcast. A lot of people have been asking me like, hey, when are we getting another podcast, like another guest, some new poker content? Because as you guys know, kind of like freestyling here, I'm doing it on the side. I'm doing things on my own time, just like as a passion with this community we have here. But today is the day. Actually, we have been planning this since some time. We have a very special treat for you. I first talked to Jan like on Instagram. We got in touch and we talked about like some like maybe like doing a collab video together. I knew he worked with like Jay Nandes with his community there, and we actually had a call. We went back and forth a bit about like I wanted to see like what his approach is, like where he's at when it comes to like mental game, because he actually already has quite a bit of experience with coaching students on the mental game side of things. I'm actually very excited. Today we will cover a very big topic. Like the main one will be on what keeps people stuck at mid stakes. And sorry for the background noise. I have my window open, but that's fine. So today we have Jan Filippi, mental game coach. Welcome to the stream, Jan. How's it going?
Thank you. Thanks a lot for having me. I'm really interested really excited to be here, especially because you said we have some very interesting questions, and that your community is also like into the deeper stuff, into the deeper questions, and I'm really excited to get into these. But the main topic or the red line we will follow is why are people stuck at their current stakes, and what can they do, what can they change in order to move up in stakes? Of course we'll also answer your questions. I'll tell a little bit about how I got here, why I'm doing this. I'd say let's get started.
Don't worry. It's we have like some time today. I have like some sick questions lined up, and we have like a sick main topic. I'm keeping it structured. I'm on top of things. It's gonna be good because I know like there's like a lot of questions in like when it comes to mental game, and I know I'm getting a lot of questions myself. I am passionate about like this like mental game of poker. I mean, it's hard to make it without it. So we're gonna start with like a brief intro. Okay, we have some guys in the chat already. Thailand, David, hello. Guys, let me know how is the sound, if everything is good. I made some nice professional, if you watch on YouTube, it's like a nice font above you and above me, Jan Filippi and Show of Force here.
Yes.
But yeah, let's jump into it because people are already joining. We have a lot of questions lined up, a lot of cool things. Tell us a bit about like who you are and like what's your background, like how did you get interested in coaching people in poker?
So I keep this intro short because I think we have so many interesting things to talk about.
Sure.
Well, my name is Jan. I'm originally from Germany, but in order to study psychology, I moved to Vienna, and poker was basically my very well paid student job. I played professionally for about 10 years.
Okay.
But I did like the first year I only played poker, but after the first year I started studying psychology. And in the beginning I was still playing 90% poker and studying 10%. And as my studies progressed, psychology became more and poker became less. Finally, right about when I was finishing my studies, I quit poker for some time. And I was mostly playing mid stakes, like NL 200, 400, PLO 200 and 400. And actually, I changed games quite a bit, but by far my favorite games were heads up, both in PLO and No Limit Hold'em. That's also where I made the most money. And one of the reasons why I switched games so much is one thing we'll talk about later, and that is to keep things interesting. That was my way of keeping things interesting, challenging myself. Yeah, to be honest, I never made it to the high stakes. I took some shots at them.
Yeah.
Broke about even there, or was a slight losing player at the high stakes. But I was fine with that because my plan was never to stay a professional for my whole life.
Okay.
And during that first stretch of my career, my mental game was actually not very good. In the beginning, it was, to be honest, terrible. Like I started in the golden age, or maybe I
yeah. When
started
did you start? You had like 10 years, and yeah, it's a long time. Like, when did you start playing?
in 2006.
Whoa.
I still remember exactly because I still got that registration date on my forum account at Poker Strategy. So it was a good time back then. It was really easy. And therefore, I didn't have to deal with any downswings in the beginning. It was, I'd say, more than a year until I finally hit my really rough first patch. And I wasn't prepared for it at all. Like, it was the highest stakes I've ever played up to that point. It was NL 400 on Party Poker that time. And people for the first time started 3-betting other hands than ace, king, and aces and kings.
Whoa.
And
sick.
Yeah, I wasn't prepared to deal with the good racks at the time. And so I got really tilted quite frequently. And that was the very first time I had to adjust a little bit, but it was very, surface measures. I was getting a little bit better, but not really. And then after, I would say, like 5 or 6 years of constantly grinding and not really working on my mental game, I hit my first really, really bad downswing. That was the only year I ever had where I didn't make profit, where I actually ended up losing like 10K, I think, over the year.
Yeah.
And I was physically and mentally crushed. And I got really sick, was depressed, was unhealthy, didn't enjoy poker anymore. Fortunately, of course, because I was studying psychology, I got into the mental stuff a little bit more. The very first thing I ever did or ever heard was a poker podcast about mindfulness. I don't remember exactly by whom it was, but it was called something like the 7-fold path to poker enlightenment or something.
Oh, that sounds familiar, actually.
Yeah, maybe somebody in the chat remembers by whom it was. So that was the first time I got in touch with mindfulness. At the same time, or around the same time, I started hearing about it in my psychology studies. And so step by step, I started getting into that stuff more and starting getting better at it. But to be honest, like, my passion for poker was already gone. I continued to play for like a few more years. And of course, my motivation came back a little bit. But when I quit poker at the end of my psychology studies, my motivation was completely gone.
Yeah.
And my mental game still wasn't really good. But there was a second phase of my career, which was 2 years after I quit playing.
Oh, Tommy Angelo somewhere in the chat said the eightfold
exactly,
path. Oh, Omar knows his shit. Some guys representing here: Luca, Scott, Florin, Andre. What's up, Omar, with the eightfold path? Okay, not 7, 8. Okay. So yeah, we have some other OGs here.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and hi.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm just gonna cut in sometimes. So yeah, sorry. I like keeping things
no
dynamic.
problem. We're live. That's how it goes.
Yeah. I like it more like this. But actually to actually intervene there a bit. What I like about you, like, right off the bat is, even though it sucks, like those like bad periods when you said like you were kind of depressed, you're not motivated, you're like thinking about quitting, and like you did quit poker, you did like hate it for a while, right? So what I like about that is that you were in there, you know what a poker player faces. What I don't like in the mental coaching community, like with the mental game, is like guys who haven't been playing poker themselves that much. And I don't know, in my experience as a pro, it's very hard to understand what people are dealing with as a pro, like when they are like playing this for a living, and the swings that come with it, unless you live through them. You kind of understand from the outside. It's like, oh, that must suck. but I think unless you get a different level of understanding when you actually experience them yourself, and like, oh, well, I know like the advice here is this, but it's actually really hard to follow it. And like I know what I should be doing, but this really, really sucks. And like it's hard to keep myself motivated. But so I think it gives you a different understanding when you actually go through that yourself. So that's like right off the bat, I think that's very valuable for a poker mental game coach, that he knows the like the depths of despair, right? Like you're like depressed, like
Oh, yeah, for sure.
things were going like shit. So even though that sucked, I think it's kind of like an asset for you. It's like, oh, when I can understand when someone is going through that, and maybe now like you have the tools to like help someone in that same position. Maybe like now you actually, yeah, like what you do would you do like with your knowledge now to like help yourself then, like when you had that like really bad year, and like everything like was the first losing year, you're like depressed, like what would you tell yourself back then if you were to talk to yourself?
You mean like what was I telling myself
No,
while
no,
I
no,
was really
now.
depressed, or in order to change it?
So now, like, let's say, no, like, so basically now, like, obviously you have a lot of experience, you know, you are way
Hmm.
more aware of the mental game aspect. So with your knowledge right now, what would you tell to that Jan from there? Like,
Ah,
how would you
okay, yeah,
help
yeah, I
him,
get it.
like,
Yeah, yeah.
to deal with all that shit, which is like very, very hard to do in the moment? How would you help him?
Well, first of all, I would tell him to take a break, not like and to regather your energy and regather your focus, and then ask yourself, do you really want to keep doing this?
Mm.
Is there more positive things than negative aspects in
Mm-hmm.
poker? Because I know quite a few people who only play poker because they don't know any other way to make money. They don't
For
love the
sure.
game anymore. They hate it. It's just because have that tunnel vision. I only know poker. It's my only way to make money, so I have to
Yeah.
keep playing.
Yeah.
And when you're in that really desperate and burnt out state, you can't really answer yourself that question honestly. Should you keep playing poker or not? So you need a clear head. You need to regenerate a little bit before you can really answer that question. And then I would ask, why is it, or what would be the reasons to continue playing poker? What are the values or the long-term goals for which poker is the best tool available? Because of course everyone wants to make money,
Yeah.
but maybe poker is not necessarily, at least in the long run, if you have if let's go to the extreme and say you really have no other skill than poker,
Yeah.
then in the short run, yes, poker is the only way to make money, but that's not a solution for your whole life.
Yeah.
Are there other ways where you maybe have more fun and can make more money other than poker, which of course can be a very, very hard transition. It was hard for me as well. I was used to making easy money, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden I was self-employed as a coach and didn't have any clients, didn't know anything about marketing, had still a limited skill set, limited visibility and so on. It was really, really difficult in the beginning to make that transition.
Yeah.
But I realized my long-term goals and my values, they are much more aligned with coaching than staying a poker player.
Yeah.
And maybe, hopefully, you can honestly answer, yes, I want to stay a poker player. I want to keep doing this. And then, of course, the question is, how do you do it? How do you stay healthy? How do you stay motivated? How do you keep improving? And how do you deal with downswings and bad emotions and all that stuff that necessarily comes with playing poker?
Yeah.
What many players try to do is find like either to avoid the negative emotions that come with downswings and bad beats, or get through them as quickly as possible by grinding super hardcore and playing way too much. And that's neither approach works. The only way that really works is to learn to deal with that stuff.
Yeah.
And become resilient, and even in a crazy way, even learn to love it, because that's what makes poker hard. That's why not everyone is doing it. And that, of course, means it's something that you can be incredibly proud of. If you're somebody who's able to deal with the swings at mid and high stakes, that's a really valuable skill that most people don't have.
For sure. That's actually a good point there, that it is tough to do it mentally. So yeah, like first of all, Especially guys, like you're here, you're watching this, give yourself a pat on the back if you're like playing like low mid stakes, like going to high stakes and like handling the swings. Yeah, it's actually, it's easy to take it for granted, but I know myself, I had a student, shout out to Anthony. he he like I was working with him like closely. He was like playing mid stakes, he was doing pretty well, and he hit a rough downswing, and like he was like losing and losing and losing, and it was like at some point, like he said, like it was too much for him. He could not really handle it, and he actually ended up quitting poker. It's not for, like I told him, like if you're gonna be a pro, you have to deal with these swings. They will come. It's not like, oh, just win all the time and you'll never have like, no, if you want to be a poker pro, you will have like gut wrenching swing, like down swings. It will like, it will really hurt. You cannot avoid that. And I told him, like, just think about it. Think about like if these things will come again, if you want or are able to handle it, and think about that. And he actually said, no, it's actually, I don't want to deal with that. It's just like too hard to deal with that. And it's definitely a skill. It's definitely something, yeah, not many people have. And if you have that mental resilience, yeah, congrats if you can like push through those. Okay, so you would first tell yourself to like take a break, evaluate, and I really like that you kind of like put that into consideration in the first point. You're like, do you even want to continue anymore? Because like you said, like most people don't even like, in a way, like, yeah, they don't know anything else, and like this is what they have been doing, so they don't even allow themselves the question like, should I still be doing this? So I really like that you pointed that out. Like, think about it. Like, what does poker give you? Like, can you move forward? And if yes, how can you move forward? Right. So that's actually, yeah, some really good stuff. And again, showing your like experience like as a poker pro, like knowing like, okay, that really sucks. Okay, anything else that you would like? Would you give him like a game, like just like quickly? You would just like give him like a game plan, like after, like, let's say he wants to, okay, I want to like keep playing poker because it gives me this and this and this, and like I think it's cool. Like, at least for now, I think it's a nice way to spend my time, even though it hurts sometimes. But you're like still feeling bad, right? Like you're still like, how would you like recollect yourself and like come back stronger? Like, would you like tell him something about like some steps there, or like how would you approach that?
Yeah, well, if my past self was to decide that he wants to continue playing, I think the very first thing would be the very basics, like a good routine, and keeping or taking care of the basics, because I was living a really, really unhealthy lifestyle, like many poker pros do, whether you're playing online or in the casino. I spent like 8 to 10 hours a day on the computer.
Yeah.
I didn't socialize enough. I didn't eat healthy. I didn't work out enough. I didn't have a balance, and I didn't have a structure. Even if I was to decide I want to play like 8 to 10 hours of poker a day, which is probably too much.
I think you just
people,
described like 80% of the poker players right there. I think you just
I
like
know.
described, like with yeah, you perfectly described. I think like a lot of people watching like, oh yeah, that's kind of me right there. So you would say, like, even though like it doesn't like clearly have to do with poker directly, you would definitely want to get that handled as soon as possible, those aspects of life.
That's the very first step. And I would say it is directly related to poker, because sleep, the diet you eat, the fresh air you get, the way you move your body, the way you relax and take your mind off of poker at the end of the day, it all directly influences your performance, and maybe even more importantly, your enjoyment of poker and your ability to perform long term. Because it's super easy. You have no boss, you have no structure, you have no timetable telling you what to do. It's super easy to way overdo it and to spend way too much playing poker, thinking about poker, doing nothing else. And even, let's say, making money was the only important thing in the world. Even then, relaxing, enjoying the rest of your life, sleeping, eating well, all that would still be very, very important to your dollar bottom line.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So sorry, just like to cut you off there. Like, I think that's very important to mention that, to like outline that even if you want to maximize your EV, because you could say, whatever, this life shit, like whatever, I don't have time to like sleep good, or like like my EV, my whatever, like I want to like just play more, like make more money, right? But kind of like a big realization for me was like, actually all this other stuff, like taking care of myself on this other sides with sleep, diet, like exercise, this actually is what is gonna make me like more successful in poker. It's gonna make me sharper, clearer thinking, making better decisions out, like being more creative, maybe like because I'm more fresh mentally, like more creative with like improving my game. But well, kind of like just like to mention there, I think it's also easy to fall too much into that, right? It's easy to like, just like meditate all the time, like, like having the perfect thing, but like when it comes time to work, like, whatever, like I'm like busy doing something else. So I think that's a delicate balance there. So this like routines you're like touching on here, I really want to like get into that a bit, but first let's like jump a bit back, and because like we're kind of seeing a bit of like how you would approach things, and I really like the way you answered that question about like how would you like handle yourself back then. Like how would you describe your approach to like mental game coaching? Because like I guess like the main guy now is like Elliot Rowe in the mental game coaching community. That's like the most popular. I don't know if he still is. I guess I don't really follow. And like, for example, like how is your approach different compared to his approach, or like other mental game coaches? Like how would you describe your approach there?
Yeah, I would say Elliot Rowe and Jared Tendler are the two biggest names.
Okay.
By far, I think, actually. So yeah, how my approach differs from theirs is Elliot Rowe's, as most people probably know, is a hypnotherapist, which is a form of psychotherapy, which is evidence-based as well, but it's not as well researched as other methods. And what I do, I didn't invent my own methods. That would be kind of shady. And some people do that in the life coaching.
Oh, you don't have the Jan Filippi method, bro?
Yeah. They come up, they put their name on it, call it the XYZ method, and pretend they have this revolutionary method that works for everyone and changes your life in 30 days. If you hear something like that, run away. Okay. There's no reason to make up your own methods, because you can, as the saying goes, you can stand on the shoulders of giants. There has been so much research done on what actually works, and of course there's different forms of therapy and different forms of coaching that work. I just personally think that there are some forms of coaching and therapy that are a little more well researched than others, and those are the ones I use. And I always try to keep myself updated, because one thing I absolutely love about my job is that there's so much more new stuff to learn that also helps yourself. It's just amazing. You're improving yourself and you're improving as a coach. And actually, even if you're just a strategy coach, if you're coaching poker knowledge to others, learning psychological coaching methods can be really helpful, because even if it's about just knowledge transfer, having these methods can help your clients achieve better results. But the methods I use are based in CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, which is just the most popular, most well researched of psychotherapy. But all the methods in there can be really easily applied to everyday problems, or to poker problems as well. Like pretty much I use the same methods a psychotherapist would use, but just with a different language. I use poker examples, I use poker metaphors, I use my experience from poker, but I'm using methods that other people have been researching and testing and validating for decades, basically. In addition, there's mindfulness methods and positive psychology. Those are the three big areas that I use. Sometimes here and there, a little bit of sports psychology or hypnotherapy methods is there in as well, but they have a lot of similarities in certain areas.
Yeah. Okay. So mainly like cognitive behavior, like psychology, you said. And like I describe, because I told you like I'm pretty interested in this. Like what are like some principles that is based on, like why does it work? Like why is it like a good method? Because I think like a lot of people here in the chat, seeing some people being like feeling a bit guilty when we said about the bad habits there. It seems like Andre is coming up a lot when it comes to the bad habits. But yeah, like how a lot of people here, like I would probably be interested as well. Like what are like some main points? Like why is that like such a powerful method?
Yeah, we can use the example of bad habits.
Yeah, like how would you apply that? Like for example, for example, if you would apply that to yourself, right? Like when you had those bad habits, you had like kind of downswing, you were like depressed. Like how would you like use that?
Let's take one very specific typical example. Let's say you're not working out, you're not physically active.
Yes.
And cognitive behavioral therapy approaches this, of course, from the cognitive and from the behavioral standpoint.
Yeah.
So the cognitive point would be that there's an underlying assumption or thoughts that you have that prevent you from going to the gym. For example, like a underlying assumption would be, I'm not a sporty person. Like everyone is better than me. That's just not my type of thing.
For sure.
I'm not made for that. I'm not a gym person. I hate running. I'm not a team sports person, whatever. So you have that deeply rooted underlying assumption that was formed whenever. A lot of that comes from childhood, but you can also develop these assumptions later in life. But a big part comes from childhood.
For sure.
So you could work on that, as, for example, through good questions, asking, is that really true? Why do you think that way? Are there maybe counterexamples? Are there other people who have the same thought or who have the same upbringing as you, but are doing something differently?
Okay.
Is it possible to change that? Could you have that thought and go to the gym anyway, for example? So through intelligent questions, you can undermine that assumption and maybe change it, or you can ask for realistic alternatives. Then on the other hand is the behavioral part. What are small challenging steps that are just outside of the comfort zone, but where you actually grow? Of course, you could try to make a way too big step.
Yeah.
If, let's say you've never been to the gym before, and then you watch some stupid bro science motivational video where some jacked up guy talks about his hardcore routine, and then you'll be like, all right, I'm gonna go to the gym five times a week. Yeah. That's of course not going to work. So ask yourself, what is the biggest step that I can take that is realistic for me, that is challenging but doable? And so when you're just leaving the comfort zone, you're in the growth zone where you're progressing, where you're improving, but you're not overtaxing yourself, not over challenging yourself.
Yeah.
So, what are the small changes in behavior you can do? Yeah. And then from a mindfulness perspective, there kind of the idea is that you cannot change all your assumptions. You cannot change all your thoughts. You cannot control all of the random stuff that pops up in your head. Okay. But what you can do, of course, it makes sense to change and work on the most important, most harmful assumptions about yourself. Like, I don't know, I'm a lazy person, or I'm an unworthy person. I'm shy. I have to stay at home. I can't talk to people. Those, of course, are ones that are worth changing. Yeah. But regardless of how much you work on them, some random negative thoughts, some random assumptions about yourself will always remain. And I think the best way to deal with those is taking the mindfulness approach of taking a step back and realizing those are just random products of your mind. Your mind comes up with unlimited amounts of bullshit every day, often depending on how well you slept or what you ate. You're the same person day 1 and day 2. You're exactly the same person, but you just didn't sleep well. And of course, on the day where you didn't sleep well, a lot more negative thoughts will come up.
For sure. Actually, that's crazy how much sleep influences that. And yeah, I can tell for myself, if I just like I am underslept in a day, yeah, my mental headspace overall is like way more shit, like way more like bad, like low like negative thoughts, like they are way more frequent when I'm underslept. So yeah, that's definitely
Yeah,
crazy.
exactly. Sleep is one of the biggest aspects that I talk about in the coaching, because of course it's kind of natural for poker players to struggle with that, because especially MTT players, but also like the cash game players, often the best games are at night,
Yeah,
or they change when the big waves show up and so on.
yeah,
But to quickly finish this point,
yeah, sure.
from a mindfulness perspective, you try to distance yourself from that thought or from that assumption in a healthy way. You're not trying to make yourself numb to it or ignore it or suppress it, but acknowledge it,
Yeah,
recognize it, even observe it, but realize you can take that step back and accept that thought and do the opposite. You can think, I'm a lazy person, and you can go to the gym anyway. Or you can think, I'm really craving a burger right now, and you can still go to the kitchen and make a
yeah.
salad. So separate your thoughts or your assumptions from your behavior.
Yeah, I like that. Actually, I would want to, yeah, I want to like give you like a short example there for people. It's like getting more personal, but that's how we do it here. For example, yesterday I had, because this is something I'm working on as well, like this mindfulness and like having a negative emotion and just being there with it. Yesterday I had some shit come up because my life is always interesting, where I felt like rejected and whatever, based on my like childhood, based on like whatever stuff. I think like I overreact emotionally when I feel rejected by people, by someone, and I think that's, in a strange way, it's common for a lot of poker players, but whatever. So I had some stuff go down, like feeling rejected, and normally, like you said, I would try to like face away from it, and like kind of when I feel rejected, like my mental path is like, yeah, fuck this shit, like fuck everyone. It's like, and I think that's why a lot of poker players are playing poker, like, yeah, it's like it's just myself, and like fuck everyone, like I can just like do things by myself. But I think that's also bad because you're kind of like suppressing it, right? You're kind of like turning the other way. So what I did yesterday, and like what I'm like trying more and more to do, like when this kind of like feeling comes up, because I already know about myself, it's like, okay, it's like a weak point, it's like a trigger point for me. Like when I feel rejected, I was like came back home, like, okay, no, let's sit on the couch for a bit and allow myself to feel that emotion instead of like running away or like distracting myself, like, which is like the easy way, right? Like it's kind of like the most common way. And just allow it to be there. And then I think it has a powerful effect because you're showing yourself, hey, I can handle this. It's like, I don't need to run away. I don't need to like pursue that emotion. I don't need to reject it. If I'm mindful, it's there, it's okay. And I'm not going to react to it. I'm not even like going the other way. I'll just like, okay, this hurts a bit, but look, I'm still alive, right? Because it's kind of like that like survival mechanism, right? That kicks in. And I definitely think I do agree with you there, just like allowing it to be and not suppressing it or like hiding or like distracting yourself from it, just like for a brief moment. I think it gives you a lot of control, right? Because then like, okay, I did not die, I'm still fine. Did some girl swipe left? No. I never get swiped. No, yeah. Yeah, so some, no, actually not very close to that. The rejection there is not a thing. So yeah, but I think that's a good way you describe it as well, and yeah, I had like an example from yesterday. So I think it gives you more power over yourself, if that makes sense. So
Absolutely, yeah. It gives you the feeling of being in control and being able to deal with that. You just said it. You could either try to hide it or run away from it or suppress it or diminish it. Tell yourself it's not that important. I don't care. Fuck those guys.
Yeah.
But actually, in reality, if you have a strong emotional reaction, it's actually probably important to you. And that's something really, really valuable that you're missing out on if you're suppressing emotions. There's information in there. There's something telling you this is important to you, and learning to deal with that is probably really, really valuable, because rejection, that's actually like, rejection is our biggest fear as humans. Like, because I don't know if you've noticed, evolutionary rejection from the group meant death. Being not part of the group meant you were very likely to die.
Yeah.
That's why it's the biggest fear to be rejected.
Yeah.
And learning to deal with that is, I think, one of the most valuable things you can ever accomplish in your life. And then you can even use it and ask yourself, why do I have this strong reaction? Is it because I don't know, because I don't feel worthy of that person and it makes me angry? Or is there something really important that I wanted to achieve together with that person? Whatever it may be, there's always, in any strong emotional reaction, there's some information in there about something that you can improve and develop on in the future.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. Yeah. Yeah, that's it's pretty good stuff. Guys, if you're here, let me see. Wait, let me check. Any likes? Okay, we have 5 likes. Okay. Good so far. Good so far. I think we're already getting into some really good stuff. So, Jan, pretty good so far. Just hit that like button. I'm doing my YouTube influencer stuff here. Like I'm learning. I see that in a wait. Actually, I should do that.
Selling out, yeah.
Yeah.
Subscribe, like, and so on.
Yeah.
And buy my protein powder.
Yeah, I not yet though. Yeah. For the next time, I will post in like 3 months or something. Yeah, no. As you can see, like I'm on and off. If I get interested, so yeah, with Jan, like I was like, yeah, okay, this would be interesting for me as well, and for my audience. So, good so far. I like it. Let's go a bit into routines that we touched a bit, and more specifically, I think I like to think about it like when it comes to like planning your life, let's say, but I don't really like that term, but I like to think, I think like weekly is like a time frame I like, weekly, because daily I think like every day can be a bit different, but in a week and then breaking that like in a day, I think that's like a good way to think about it, because maybe in a week we have a day off, or you do some other stuff, or like you do some exercise, which is not every day. You're not doing the same thing every day. And first of all, how do you, because okay, I'll tell you my example. Guys in the chat, Mukesh, hello from India, hello. Guys in the chat, tell me if you resonate with what I'm saying. First of all, I hate routines. I don't know. I cannot just do mostly the same thing every day. And like I tried to like force myself. Like I think I'm not a person who does well with routines. I get bored. I have, maybe like you said earlier, like maybe I have some bad association with with the word routine, but I like to keep my life I don't know, interesting, and like have a bit of variety. I just feel about a lot of resistance when it comes to like having like a set routine. Like I know whatever, let's say like I know the GTO line, right? I know like the GTO routine, like what it could be, or we have a lot of info, but it's just like, I think a lot of the reasons people are playing poker is because they can be their own boss, and they like to escape that like 9 to 5 kind of like routine, right? Yeah. So first of all, does anyone resonate with me in terms of like being pretty bad at having a routine? And second of all, like how do you address that? Like do you see clients who like some are more predisposed to like having a routine? For some it's easier, for some it's harder, or like how do you see that? Like how do you approach someone who's like, yeah, it's like it's hard for me to keep a routine?
Well, yeah, I think most of us as self-employed people, as poker players, we chose that path mostly because we want to live a free life. And
exactly.
That's exactly the same for me. That's why I never had a regular job, or I didn't keep it longer than 2 days at least. And that's exactly because I want to do what I choose, what is my favorite thing to do. I want every day to be able to do whatever I like. But actually, having certain routines makes this much, much easier. So I completely understand why you have a negative association with routines, or with the word discipline maybe as well. And I used to have as well. But not after some time, but after a lot of time, I realized that having certain routines, I'm definitely not trying to structure my whole day, my whole week, my whole life. Definitely no. I
Okay.
think that works for no one.
Okay.
Everyone has a certain degree of longing for freedom. For some, more routine is better. For some, only a little bit of routine is good. But I think everyone would benefit from at least a very basic routine to have. And those can be very simple things. I'll get to that in a second.
Sure.
But the main idea is that having routines, for one, they should be something that are beneficial. You shouldn't force yourself to do something that you don't enjoy or that you don't get any benefit from just because, again, some random bro science dude says it, or because it's a net. What are those books
You don't like bro
about
science, dude.
routines? Yeah, no, definitely not. I don't know, like what is the most famous book about routines? Something about the morning. I forgot. Where sometimes people pretend you should have exactly this routine. This is going to work for everyone.
Oh, yeah.
It's the magic secret of billionaires.
Or like CEOs of like big companies.
Yeah,
Or like
when in
billionaires.
reality, it's just about having a routine that works for you, and it's not that important what the routine actually contains. But yeah, the main idea of routines is that they, for one, they are simply beneficial things that give you energy, that are fun, that are healthy for you. And on the other hand, they free up a lot of mental space, a lot of mental energy, a lot of decision-making time, because
Nice.
if you have a routine, you know what to do, you do
like
it,
it.
it doesn't take any effort. Because making decisions is very fatiguing for the brain, it's very tiring for the brain. And
Yeah.
if you have to make a decision about everything you do during the day, by the end of the day, you will be completely exhausted.
Yeah.
And having certain routines actually achieves exactly the opposite. It gives you energy instead of draining your energy. And so in reality, what I came to realize is that having routines to a certain degree, if you have too many routines, it will take away freedom. But to a certain degree, having routines will give you a lot more freedom. And that's just a personal example. I basically only have a fairly short morning routine and a very short evening routine. But they make my life so much easier and make waking up more fun and going to bed easier.
Nice.
And during the day, I'm fairly unstructured. Maybe I would like a little more structure during my working time, but my afternoons and my evenings, I can do whatever I like. They are completely free.
Bro, that's awesome.
I
Nice.
intentionally keep them free because I'm a very freedom-loving person, like most poker players are as well.
Okay. Wow, that's very good to know. So like even yourself, you not consider yourself like very structured person. I can do this, even though you're German. So like that's a surprise. I have some German friends. Definitely Germans have to be more disciplined when it comes to like
Definitely
tendencies. So I really like that you mentioned some really key points there, which I really liked. I want to emphasize. So first of all, you want a routine to be like fun, like enjoyable for yourself. It's not like like you said, like seeing like this motivational video and like, oh yeah, wake up at 4 a.m. every day, and like, or like just like taking some routines that are like, oh, just because they're good or like they work for other people, but you hate them. So that's definitely not the way to go. You want them to be like fun and enjoyable. That's like the first thing. And like you have benefits.
Let me just add one thing there.
Sure.
They don't have to be enjoyable right away, because most of these things, they are hard to do in the beginning. It takes some time to get used to them, and you have to try out for yourself. Which ones do you enjoy after trying them out for a month? Don't, just because you don't enjoy the first attempt, don't give up on it. And if it worked for a lot of people, then it is likely to work for you, but not a guarantee. So you need some patience and you need some trying out to find out what works for you. But definitely don't just copy the routine of somebody else.
Yeah. Okay, so we have that, and I think like you said, also what I liked as well, and it's kind of like brought to my head, like having pre-made decisions. It's kind of helps you with having like these pre-made decisions. So it sounds like like having systems in your life, so like having systems where like you don't have to decide all the time, like I don't know, like what you're gonna eat today, or like what clothes you wear, or like kind of like you said, like taking the small insignificant decisions away. Because for me, for example, I don't really care what I will eat that day. So or like whatever, like what I'm gonna wear, or So taking the small everyday decisions away by having a system, having a routine. So that's also like some argument for like having it. Florin, you have like a good question there. Like I'll actually copy and paste the question when we were getting to those sections. I will ask Jan. Okay, so you want to have it like fun, enjoyable. You want to give it a chance. Okay, so it's not like if it's kind of like sucks in the beginning, it's like, okay, let's just give it a shot, and then you'll see, right? Like I think that's a fair point. Like you don't know how something will feel from the first try, because if it's like most likely something different, you don't like doing things that are different, so you will have some resistance there.
Mhm.
But give yourself a try, and then you decide if you keep it or not. So maybe that's a better way. This is a big problem, at least for me. Like, am I gonna eat today? Yeah, I know. It's like a big concern. a
Yeah,
big like
it can drive you crazy. You
yeah.
can
It's like lots
you
of
can
mental
spend a
energy.
lot of time thinking about what to eat or what to buy on Amazon. We're also overloaded with decisions these days, so I think it becomes even more valuable to be a little bit structured in some areas, because we've never had so many options. We've never had so many random small decisions to make as we have
Yeah,
today. Like a few thousand years ago, life was very simple. You would get up and you would spend the whole day trying to survive,
yeah,
finding food, and
easy.
going back to bed when the sun goes down. So there were very many decisions to make. Where our bodies are absolutely not used to that. Our brains to making so many decisions every day.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So yeah, that's a good point. But okay, going back now, like as a poker player, like it's like this is your thing. You're a poker pro. How do you think like um a day? Let's say yeah, let's start with a day. Kind of like that's kind of like how should ideally a day be structured? I guess there's a lot of variation based on who you are as a person, like maybe like some predispositions, but what are like some building blocks there? Because you mentioned like maybe people will not be the same in terms of routines and preference, but there are some building blocks there. What would you say are some like core building blocks, and like how would like some things that should be in a day for like a poker pro?
Mhm. I think the easiest and most effective step is having a good morning routine, and that's by far the most important for me as well. Like how my morning goes basically determines how my day goes to a large part, to a large degree. Not completely, maybe you can still turn a bad morning around or the other way, but I think a good morning routine is the most effective
Yeah,
you can have. And there are some things in the morning routine that will work for pretty much everyone, like not starting your day on your phone, because that basically bombards your brain right away with stress and distraction.
yeah,
And instead, for example, what I do, I open the door, get some fresh air, drink a liter of water, and stretch a little bit, get my body moving, get the hormones flowing, and that just makes me wake up much quicker. Then I like to listen to some music and have on the days that I work out, I go to the gym, and either after the gym or after the short time at the after the short waking up routine, I like to have a really healthy breakfast or a tasty breakfast as well. That's probably the one thing that I'm most looking forward to, is having a good breakfast. So that's like the biggest motivation for me to get up in the morning, is I know there will be a super tasty breakfast waiting for me.
yeah.
And then not I to be honest, I don't meditate every day, but I try to do it every day, and I
Okay.
don't beat myself up if I don't. But that's usually how I end my morning routine.
Yeah.
And I would say like all these aspects, they probably would work for almost everyone that is trying it for some time. Meditation is probably the hardest example, because I think I've never met anyone who said meditation was easy. I think from the
Definitely.
thousands of people I've spoken to, nobody ever said meditation was easy and it's exactly my thing. I love doing it from the first time.
Yeah.
Pretty much everyone struggled a lot with it. And many people say it's not my thing.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do it. I'm not that type of person. I think too much while meditating. That is, by the way, exactly the reason why you should meditate.
Yeah.
But I've also never met anyone who after a year of practicing constantly said, I don't like it, I'm gonna quit. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
So this is one of the most obvious examples how extremely important it is to try things out for some time before you judge them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another personal example, I tried to do yoga regularly for some time. And I honestly can say I don't like it that much. It's okay-ish, but it's definitely not my best use of time. So I'm not doing it. It might work for others very well, but not for me personally.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Okay. So we have like the morning routine is key. That's like something you should definitely have in your day. You mentioned earlier like having like an evening routine. Um, what are some core things you would have in your evening routine, or like people should have, like some building blocks there?
Well, my own evening routine is really simple. I just put away all the things that I associate with work or with stress. I put away my laptop. I put away my work stuff. I clean up my table, and then I just spend the last 30 minutes without any stimulation. So I turn off the phone, turn off the laptop, and usually I read or I do some relaxation exercise or just spend a few more minutes outside, just to give myself a little bit of time to cool down, because I still remember when I was playing a lot, how I would turn off the PC after 8 hours of grinding, playing many tables, and then going to bed, how my brain was still racing, like crazy active. And I didn't even have a problem falling asleep, but my sleep wasn't very good because my brain was still so stimulated, still basically awake, because I was bombarding it with so much information, so much stress. So my sleep wasn't really refreshing. I think that's the most important part about having an evening routine, is to allow your brain to shut down. Turn off any electronic devices, do something relaxing, do something that takes your mind off of stress and work and about how serious life is. Reading is a very obvious example. Listening to music, getting some fresh air, talking to your partner, doing just something relaxing, pleasant.
But that can be hard. I'm saying like from my own experience, like because I have been like going through all kinds of like phases and waves, and I think like lately I noticed myself like I am pretty bad at like disengaging at the end of the day, because I think it's very easy to get hooked on that high intensity stimulation from like our normal day, and then like it just like brings you so much like dopamine, like reward, whatever. It's hard to like just switch that off. It's hard to like, now what? It's like, it's kind of like, now what? Like, just be here in silence, like just like relax. That's kind of shit. That's not fun at all.
It can be really unpleasant in the beginning if you're not used to being basically doing nothing, being alone with your thoughts. That can be really unpleasant in the beginning. It is something that has to be really practiced constantly in order to work, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So I do think there's like some challenge to that, but I do really agree. So like you want your evening routine is basically like the main purpose of it is like to tone down, like slow down, like the like like the rush in your head, and like really chill out and kind of like prepare your brain for like, okay, rest time, and like be sharp tomorrow. I think, and like whatever way, right? Like, so actually that's kind of weird, but actually last night, that's kind of like when I made the commitment to myself. Like after, let's say like for me, after 10 p.m, I want to like switch off, or like the PC, switch off all this stuff, like block it for myself, or like whatever, like make it, because it's very easy when you're in front of the PC to just like, I think that's, for me, that's like, it's very easy to just go to bed late, because, oh, this one thing is like always easy to just like stay engaged. So for me, like, I feel like it's hard to control myself. Like, no, I actually have to like have it shut down by itself, or like something. It's like, I just like, that's kind of like a commitment. I notice myself, like I just go to bed later than I want. And it's not like I'm doing like so much crazy stuff. It's like, like I should proactively disengage. So I definitely agree with that there. Okay, so we have our morning routine in place. We have our evening routine. A question I get a lot: how many hours a day should we be focusing on poker? What's your take on that? Like talking to students, your experience. What's your answer? Putting you on the spot.
Well, the answer is it depends on a set of factors. I think the most important one is how much poker how long can you focus on poker a day and still feel good about it? And not only on your best day, but on your average day and over a long period of time.
Nice.
So, and that is really true for many things, regardless of what you're doing. You have to develop your own competence to recognize your body's warning signals and acknowledge them and value them and heed the warnings that your psychological or your physical health are sending you. Does this work for you? If I was to say 6 hours a day, completely worthless advice, because it differs a lot. If you're 20, you're single, you don't have to worry about your rent as much. All your friends are playing poker. You have a great peer group that is easy to integrate into your poker lifestyle. Go ahead and play 8 to 10 hours a day. But if you have kids, if you have other passions, if you're struggling with your health, then probably 3 to 4 hours a day is even a bit of a stretch. So it's really, really important to learn to listen to your own body and again, not suppress those signals, but to really acknowledge them and to recognize them. And also build your lifestyle and your routine so that you can use the time that you have optimally, because 8 hours of poker can be fairly efficient or can be really inefficient depending on how else your life looks like and how stressed you are when you sit at the table, or how many other things are on your mind, or if you're really able to fully focus on it. I have one client, for example, I'm really impressed with his routine. He only plays like a little less than 4 hours a day, but he's really, really meticulous about preparing and playing always exactly the same length in sessions, always taking his breaks seriously, and he's performing crazy well in that short amount of time. And if you were to say, let's say, one day you played 8 hours until late at night, then you sleep for 4 hours, then you play 10 hours, then you're burned out for 2 days, then you start playing 10 hours again. So that's the rhythm that a lot of players have, of course. Playing less hours, but playing them in a better mood, with higher focus, with better energy level, is probably going to be more efficient. So yeah, it really depends on many factors.
So yeah, you definitely say, you want to like focus on the quality there, because I know myself, like I worked with a ton of students, and I know there's a lot of guys who are like pushing it a bit too much and like playing too many hours and like playing too many tables. I see this more like, you want to perform better for like shorter amount of time than perform shit for a longer amount of time, because a lot of these guys, and like I told them that this is your league. Like I can teach you can be like amazing technically. I can teach you all these concepts and you will apply them very well first hour, second hour, third hour, let's say, but then like on hour 6 you're just like dumping stacks. You're just like spewing stacks, and that goes into your win rate so much, like those spews you make at the end, like in the last half of your sessions when you play a lot, that no matter how good you are in your A game, let's say, or like technically, you're just like giving it all back. And I think a lot, it's very hard to like notice that when you are the one who's doing that. It's very hard to like, because you're not making like, oh, shove 7 deuce off all in pre-flop, like hopefully not. It will be more subtle mistakes. So I do.
And when you're tired in autopilot modus, it's hard to recognize that and to take that step back and realize, all right, I am starting to make big mistakes now and I need a break for sure.
Yeah. So you'd say, I like that. It's like, how long can you be on poker a day where it still feels enjoyable, where you still want to do it tomorrow, the day after, and just like whatever that amount is for you. What would you say to someone who, let's say, keeps that approach, the more like quality, but then at the end of the month is not happy with the volume? Let's say like he did not play that many hands. He's not happy with the amount of hours or like the amount of hands he played for the month. what would you say to someone? Because there's like a lot of people, myself included, like a lot of times, like I'm like, I am focusing on quality, but like I feel sometimes like, yeah, it's easy to use that as an excuse and like not put in enough work. Because I mean, I don't know, in my opinion, let's be honest, like a lot of times you don't feel like playing, and I feel like, yeah, you want to keep that consistency and discipline, and like, yeah, sometimes you don't feel like playing, but you're still sharp. You could play, but it's like emotionally you don't feel like playing, but you kind of have to. You want to, like it's a good game. It's like high EV game. How like what would you say to someone who's like not happy at the end of the month? Like, yeah, actually I'm now playing too little.
Hmm. Yeah, that's actually a fairly common question I get as well. And I think the biggest problem that people have with this type of goal is that they just say, I want to play more, and being completely unspecific about it. And then usually when they try to take measure, they overdo it. They set some big grinding challenge, or
Yeah,
they try to play 50% more
yeah,
from 1 month to the next.
yeah,
So again, I try to use this concept of the growth zone. What is a realistic step that is challenging you, improving you, but is not overdoing it? So I would ask, how would you feel about playing 10% more? Then the person would answer, yeah, easy, can be easily done. And then I would ask, well, what would you have to change in your behavior in order to do that? Would you have to rearrange your schedule? Would you have to do less of something else? Be more specific about the goal. Not just say, I want to do X, Y, Z, but what exactly do you want to do, and how would you like to do it? Is it realistic? What is the adversity or the reasons not to do it? What kind of problems could show up if all of a sudden you're trying to play 10 or 20% more? And then we narrow down on that, we zero in on that realistic amount that could be played more. Let's say it's 10% more. Then I say, okay, let's try this out for a week.
yeah,
Let's talk again in a week. How did it go? Were you able to play that? Was it okay? Did you feel well? Did you play well? And if that worked out, should we continue it, or should we go even higher? And then let's see how it works out. Are you getting used to it? Is it doable? And then you can also readjust. Maybe you realize 10% is a little bit too much, or is a little bit less than you could do. Then you go to 5 or 15% more. But be very careful about it, and not just set this super unrealistic, hardcore goal from one day to another. I talked about this earlier with the gym example.
yeah,
People often try to change their whole life, turn it around by 180 degree with this one big step. And I think everyone knows that by now. It's not one big step that you take, it's a million little steps. And even more importantly, it's about restarting or continuing after a setback.
yeah,
If you're trying to integrate a habit that you've never done before, the chances of it working right away are close to zero. Very, very likely you will have setbacks and you will have to restart. And that's the important part. Starting again, trying again and again until it sticks, as long as you think you're still on the right path. Maybe at some point you realize, all right, I have children, I have other hobbies, I have other passions. I'm never going to play more than 4 hours a day. It's just not doable.
yeah.
So, but as long as you think, yeah, I think it is doable, I can play more, I want to play more, I should play more, then keep trying.
Yeah.
Keep restarting.
Yeah, I really like that. And what I like about your approach so far, like what I'm getting from you is like really listening to yourself and not having this approach for like constantly, because I think as poker players we definitely tend to be on more like self-critical side and having very high expectations and like being very hard on ourselves, like putting a lot of pressure on ourselves always. I like what I like from your approach is like I'm getting way more of like actually be understanding with yourself and not too demanding, not like, oh yeah, like just like wow, like double your volume or like double your efforts, or like, no, come on, you should be able to do this, like stop being a bitch. It's like I think
unfortunately that's a lot of the typical advice out there.
Yeah, right. Like in your opinion, do you think like a lot of poker players, because you've worked with quite a few, like do you think a lot of them like tend to be a bit too self-critical, put too much pressure on themselves?
Yeah, pretty much I would say 100% of them, including myself. But that's actually something that is very, very common amongst people in general.
Okay.
Like pretty much every coaching client I ever had said at some point something similar. Like, and they often, which I think is an important point, they say something like, this is weird. This might sound weird. Maybe I'm a little weird. Maybe I'm a little bit different. And then they say, I'm very self-critical. And in reality, almost everyone I've ever talked to about this call themselves too self-critical. And that's just because it's a human tendency.
Yeah.
If you're not very self-critical, you're actually clearly the exception and not the norm.
Yeah.
This is very common. And that's again for evolutionary reasons, because people who would be too optimistic and too confident, they would simply get killed, because they wouldn't be paying attention to negative stimuli and negative experiences as much as people who have this negativity bias or this self-critical style of thinking.
Yeah.
So we have it for a reason. It kept us alive for most of our evolutionary history. Nowadays, while we are living a fairly safe life, it's not that useful anymore. But of course, it is still there, because our bodies adapt way slower, our evolution adapts way slower than our environment changes. But fortunately, there's ways to train that. And I earlier mentioned positive psychology. The most well-known exercises from positive psychology, they are mostly about learning to focus on the positive. About, for example, realizing what strengths you have, what you're already doing well, past successes you've had, things to look forward in the future, recognizing all the small positive things in life. And that's just something, that we're not trained to do, but that we can become better at.
Yeah. I like that. It's definitely, I guess it's an issue with tons of people, and it's kind of like I feel it's kind of refreshing. Like it's kind of so weird. Like we need someone from the outside, like give us permission to be like more understanding with ourselves. Like I go to therapy like once a week now. Like I had like, okay, let's try this out. Let's kind of I think it could be helpful, right? Like you said, right? Like, let's see like how it goes. And I know like there's like a lot of stigma around it, but like, I know a lot of successful people actually try it out, and like, let's kind of see how this goes. And that's actually one of the main things I get from there is like, when I walk away, it's like, being more accepting of myself and like, less pressure. Like, wow, it's kind of interesting. Like, oh, we need someone else from the outside to give us that. So that's definitely interesting. Let's kind of wrap up on the routines part. We're going pretty deep today, so actually I like it.
Maybe let me add one little thing about the self-acceptance, or also friendliness, or even love for yourself. Whenever you're criticizing yourself and you recognize it, you realize, all right, I'm being too hard on myself, ask yourself, what would I tell my best friend if he was saying the exact same things about himself? In which tone? How would I talk to that person if he was criticizing himself that harshly? And you would realize you would be much more friendly, much more understanding, and much more loving about it.
I think that's really crazy how we tend to be like so much more understanding with other people than with ourselves. That's that's like a huge difference in like I think another one is like kind of like if you had like a kid, like how would you do that? But I like the best friend scenario, because more like it's kind of more similar to you.
And he's on the same level as you, and with a child it would be even easier, and I like the example with the best friend a little better.
I like that. And we're always like thinking, it's like something wrong with me, like I cannot perform, whatever. But if you had like exactly like if you had a friend, they were exactly the same things, like, bro, take it easy, no stress, wherever you'll do it, like don't worry about it. But then like with you, like, no, no, I should be better than this. Mattia, what's up? Podcast out of the blue with Show Force. I like the beard and haircut. Thank you. Of course, I'm gonna say the good things out loud. But yes, he's good at compliments. He's shout out to him. He's a coach for Blab to Spot. He's a good guy. He's actually a good example of the topic we have today, the main topic we have today of like moving up stakes. So maybe we actually get some input from him as well, if he'll be here in the chat. But yeah, I do like that example. Like when you're self-critical, when you feel like a bit too hard on yourself, ask yourself, if like with my best friend, like how, if he told me this stuff, like what would I tell him? Like how would I behave there? I like that. So we have like a few hours a day, like however much you feel you can spend on poker. The efficiency part, not really necessary to discuss that, because I think it's more like technical side. And it's more like case by case. And now a big topic which people don't really like, I'm very curious, like what about recovery? How important do you think like it is like focusing on recovery? Like would you have something like that every day? How important is that aspect where you like perform in a part of the day where you perform, and then you have a part in the day of like you chill? Because most people, myself included, like whatever, chill another time, like whatever, like it's not important, like it doesn't bring me anything. What's your take on like implementing that in your routine, in your daily life, in your weekly life, having recovery in there?
Yeah, I think it's massively undervalued still by poker players. Because
you're not making money.
Sorry?
You're not making money. It's like how like I'm chilling. Like now it's like
actually I would say you're making money by recovering, because you will be able to perform better the next day. But also, both about performance and enjoyment of poker. It's incredibly important. If poker is all you do in life, then a lot of your happiness will depend on your results in poker. Those are not completely under your control. And as humans, we hate it when we're not in control of our life. So you need other things to balance that out, where you feel like you are doing something valuable, meaningful, relaxing, whatever it may be, regardless of the luck and the roll of the dice, so to speak. So yeah, it's incredibly important. And I think it all starts with sleeping enough, sleeping regularly, having a regular sleeping schedule, getting enough sleep, getting high quality sleep.
Okay.
But it's also about having other things in life that are meaningful to you. So not all your sense of success and not all your self-efficacy, so that feeling of doing something meaningful or having control over your life or doing something important, not all that is derived from poker, but from other areas as well. And of course we need things to take our mind off of poker, whether it's not that important what exactly you do. That is of course massively dependent on your personal preferences, but we all need some form of socializing, whatever that may be. We all need some type of physical exercise. We all need some type of relaxation, whether that's meditation or going for a walk or whatever it may be. Like the basic principles are all the same, but we have very different ways of living those out.
So when it comes to recovery, like, and relaxing, like, do you think that you should have, let's say, like a set time for yourself every day? Like, okay, like I'm gonna incorporate this in like a relaxing activity, or like something, like that enriches my life. Like I socialize, or like I go out with friends. I go, like, for example, like I'm in a new city here, like in for a while. Like I don't know like many people. I have a few friends here. And I think like a cool way is actually, like, I made some friends where I'm going and playing like foot tennis, like 2 times a week. Like you can start like some courses, because like you said, I think this aspect is pretty challenging. The social aspect can be pretty challenging for a poker player, especially if you're traveling a lot, especially like switching locations. So yeah, my take there is like having some activities where maybe like enroll, like I'm actually later today I'm going like on this climbing course, like in this climbing gym, and like I'm doing this beginner course there. Just stuff it's enjoyable, like breaks you out of the routine of the that mental grind and that pressure that can come from poker. So yeah, like, do you think we should kind of like have that every day, or like a few times a week, or like have a time of the day that like, okay, I know I'm gonna take it easy this part of the day? How important do you think that is?
Well, again, I try not to dictate any strict rules, but in
Okay.
general, I would say it's very healthy to have something, at least something small every day to take your mind off of poker. It doesn't have to be this big gesture. You don't have to go climbing every day. You don't have to go to a big party every day. But I think at least something small is really valuable because it's more about consistency than volume. So let's say on the days where you don't go out to meet friends, where you don't have some big physical activity, do something shorter, do something easier, go for a walk, read a book, watch a movie, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But
Have a
I
call
think
with
it's
some
really
friends. That's something I do sometimes. Like I have a call with a good friend, whatever, like catch up with some, because like, especially like myself, like I have like a lot of international friends around like whatever around the world. So yeah, sometimes, yeah, I don't go out and like, but yeah, like I will still catch up with like a good friend or like whatever, my brother or like something. So I think that's also, yeah, I would add it into that list.
yeah, that's actually something that I do quite frequently nowadays as well, because my friends are very spread out as well, especially my best friends. And especially during the lockdown, I realized how extremely relaxing it is just to talk about random bullshit,
Yeah.
about nothing serious, just shoot the shit, talk about any random stuff
Yeah.
with your friends. It's just one of the most relaxing things to do. And nowadays, it's easier to do than ever. Of course, real social interaction is still deeper and more meaningful and even more beneficial than having a video call. But if you're feeling lazy today, if your friends are far away, it's definitely better than spending the rest of the day watching YouTube videos or
Yeah.
doing something less productive, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, it's mostly about consistency. And I would say that goes pretty much for anything. First, build a routine and then allow yourself the exceptions. Because especially with things like playing too much, you will always find excuses to not do the healthy thing that day. We'll always find any random reason to grind through the whole night, to not go out, to eat the unhealthy stuff. So I would say always try to build the routine first. And once you're really confident in that routine, and once you really felt the benefits of it, for example, nowadays, it would be impossible for me to ever not go do sports anymore regularly. Like for a few years, I really struggled with that, doing that regularly. But then at some point it clicked, and I felt the positive effects so often. I felt the negative effects of not doing it so often that it just became absolutely natural. And so now it's totally fine to make an exception. If I don't feel well that day, I can easily say, okay, whatever, skip it today, because I know the very next day, after relaxing, after recharging, I will be motivated to do it again. And the same goes for example, socializing. If that's something that is natural to you, that is normal for you, if you don't do it for 2 weeks, you will miss it so much that you don't need any extra motivation. You will simply start doing it again. It's only after you've really built that strong habit and experienced that positive feedback a lot.
Yeah, that's why I was asking, like, do you want to, I was like thinking like, you want to be proactive with that. And like, like this is a priority, like finding, come on, it's like, it's your life. You should kind of treat yourself well. You should like take care of your mental health first, or like your well-being first. I think that's a priority, like for like, that should be your priority, not like poker, like results. I think, you can be unbalanced for a while. I think that is necessary. Let's not like, come on, let's be real. I think sometimes you need like periods like that to kind of like before, like kind of like being a bit obsessed. And I think there are benefits of being that poker mindset all day, because you kind of like,
for sure,
you just like think about poker all day, and like when you're eating, you're getting like, oh, a new concept. You're like sitting around, like walking around, like, okay, like a new concept. Like I think that there's definitely benefits, and that's how you get good fast. But I think that's not sustainable. It leads to burnout.
And I think those hardcore phases where you go really deep into something, they are much more sustainable and more productive if you have some routines already. Let's say you want to really go deep into poker and improve and move up quickly. If you have a good morning routine, if you eat healthy, and if you don't completely neglect your health and your friends, going deep is much easier to do, much more sustainable than if this is your first priority.
I like it. I like it. So even you're like going hardcore mode, you're like just locked down, like let's do this shit, like doing like all time, like all every day in the lab. You still want to keep some like minimal like building blocks to kind of keep you constant, keep you like balanced
Exactly.
and mentally. I like that. So
Mhm.
still kind of figuring out what's the bare minimum you need, like exercising, like eating good, like talking to a friend now and then. So yeah, um, really good. And actually, Mattia felt the next transition because he's asking. So yeah, going with now like changing topics a bit and like thinking about like what keeps people stuck at low to mid stakes. And actually, I want to start this discussion with with what Mattia asked, uh, like finding ways to stay motivated to grind and hit your goals when you are I like this, too rich to be poor, uh, but too poor to be rich. So yeah, like finding motivation like to hit super long term goals with when any hard work won't change your situation for years. So
Mhm.
I think when it comes to like why people have trouble, and definitely I definitely this like it's like one of my struggles as well. Definitely faced this myself as well. I think one of the first components I'm really interested to like hear your thoughts on is you've been grinding, right? You've been like moving up stakes, and like of course money is a big motivation, or like kind of like the lifestyle you get is a big motivation. And now you're in a place that you kind of have all you want. You have a comfortable life. You don't have like whatever the super sick dreams, but your life is pretty good. You can afford a lot of stuff now. You're like in a good place. You're living in a nice place. You have, let's say you have a girlfriend. Like everything is comfortable. Why even go the extra miles? Why, when like life is so nice and easy, why make yourself uncomfortable? Like why? Because like Matthias said here as well, like to make a significant difference, you will need like let's say like 1 year of like really consistent work, right? Like because let's say even like at this point you make another 100K, you made another 200K. Is your life gonna be that different? Nah, like you're just doing the same things, right? So
Mhm.
what would you say to that? Like what would you say to someone who's like struggling with that? Like first of all, have you worked with people that have this issue of like, well, I have it pretty good right now, so it's hard to motivate myself for more. Uh, what would you say to that?
Um, Actually, let me take a 2 minute break because I really need to go to the bathroom
Yeah,
because this is a really interesting question. I want to
think about
answer
it.
it in length. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll be right back.
yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah, let's see. Um, honestly, you don't have to. Yeah, you don't have to. See, guys, that's why I'm a pro. I went to pee before that, uh, before our show. But yeah, I probably have to go pee as well soon. Okay, but yeah, no, like Mattia, I know like you've been on the grind. I know you. So you this is the struggle, right? Like this, like you get to a good level, you have a good life, and yeah, it's hard to like keep that same thirst, that same fire. I think that's kind of like it's not like you couldn't if you wanted to, but it's like I think like wanting to is probably a big one. My question was so boring. The guy went to yeah. Yeah, actually pretty good stuff. I'm yeah, I'm going in depth. I'm freestyling, going in depth in a lot of stuff. But now this is a topic I think it interests a lot of people. Like saying like why do people? I know like Mattia went recently from low mid stakes and now he's mixing in some high stakes. So can also get you guys can also get some tips from him. First world problem, even though I'm in third world country. Was I'm kind of in the same scenario. This question is also for normal job people. Yeah, I think that's kind of it. I think yeah, like it's very hard to find that. Like why do you want more? I mean, you want more because what, right? Like you have these perceptions in your head, but when you're like really not really acting on them, it's like, huh, that's kind of interesting, right? Most of my volume is 1K, some 500, some 5K. Yeah. Serbia, third world country. Actually, I think, Mattia, I think you live pretty close to me. I think we live a few hours away. Now that I think about it, but I don't have a
All
car
right.
to pour. Okay, Jan, what do you
Yeah, I
have?
am back.
What do you have? What do you have for us?
Yeah, well, first of all, I would say something that you already mentioned basically is to ask that person, do you really want to? Or does it just sound nice? Does it look nice on paper to make more money or to move up in stakes? I would ask, what exactly would you like to achieve? Because again, often people are pretty vague and unspecific about it. Moving up in stakes, what does it mean exactly? Well, like, what kind of stakes do you want to play? How much money do you want to make? Do you, I don't know, yeah, what is your financial goal? And especially, why do you have it? Is it just because other poker players are doing it because they look cool when they post their graphs or when they brag with their money or if they show off their lifestyle? Or do you have a very, very, very good specific reason why you want to make that much more money? How would it improve your life? What is it? What are the really valuable and meaningful things that you could afford that you now cannot afford?
What if you don't have those? What if like, yeah, like, yeah, like there's some stuff I would like, right? Like I think there's like a lot of guys in this situation because like we're kind of like humans, like we don't need that much. So you cannot really find that, but you think it's kind of sets you in a better position long term. Let's say, well, poker is like a short term thing, right? Like poker, like it's like it's giving me this life now. So now I have all I want, but in the long term I will not really have it. So like how do you bring that like long term here? Like because I think that's the main thing. Like now you have it all good, but in this rhythm, or like maybe you don't have want this rhythm all your life, right? Like I think it's like planning for the future. I think like that's a big reason for all of us. We don't want to grind 4 or 5 hours a day of poker the rest of our lives, and
Yeah.
like we're kind of like trying to build towards that, but that's in a way it's like so far away for a lot of us that the good life now is more appealing than the sacrifice you would need to like build that up. Yeah, kind of like diverged from your first point, but I think that's kind of like a big issue. But so you would say, first of all, like know exactly why, and that's why. Like, what if like those reasons are not that big? Like, okay, it's cool to have like a Lamborghini, right? But is it that cool? Like, okay, would I want it? Yeah, but like, would I really do what's necessary for it? Like, that's kind of different, right? So
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, does making twice as much money by working twice as hard, does it make your life twice as good? The answer is often no. Of course, if you're really broke, if you can't afford even the most basic things, and if you don't really have the freedom that you need in order to enjoy your life, then of course, working twice as hard, or at least working harder and maybe increasing your patience will definitely make a big difference. But everyone has that point where doing more doesn't yield the same results as it did earlier. It's diminishing returns, basically.
yeah.
So that's, again, something that everyone has to answer for themselves personally. But I would ask, like, step by step, I would try to go into more detail. How much more do you want to work? How much more can you realistically work? What exactly what kind of freedom would you gain through it? What kind of sacrifices would you have to make? What else could you afford? And are the things that you could afford really that important? Does, for example, let's say building a house is probably a really sensible goal for almost everyone because it frees you from paying rent. It gives you some stability. So affording a house is probably going to be a sensible goal for everyone. But then I would ask, what type of house is worth your effort? Like, do you need a $5 million mansion, or is a 500K family home for you and your wife and your 2 children enough? And where would you want to live? When do you want to be able to afford it, and so on? So again, be very specific about it, and then ask, yeah, well, what are the steps you have to take to get there?
Yeah.
But I think actually the most important step about all of this is to develop patience. Because if you don't have patience, any type of goal will easily become too boring, not enough, and you will always want more. And being able to enjoy life while you're on your way to that goal, that's much more important than actually reaching the goal. Because I think those 5 or 10 year goals, they usually bullshit, because especially nowadays, we have no idea what the world will look like in 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think back 10 years, think about your goals that you had 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Most of them probably didn't come true. Maybe you went in the same direction. You lived by the principles that you wanted to live by, but the outcome was probably very different than you would have thought.
Yeah. 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 So what I'm
So it's
getting, yeah, go ahead.
much more about enjoying the moment and making the right value-based decisions than achieving a very specific goal.
Yeah. So it's not that much. Yeah. Okay. So it's not that much about like the goals themselves. It's more like about like the kind of life that you want that can also like maybe bring you to a place that you want. So kind of like first of all, like knowing what are those big goals that they need to be achieved, that you kind of like actually need them, not like, oh, would be cool, like having a Lambo. I don't know. It's like, yeah, that could be cool, but it's like, is that cool? I don't know. So like knowing exactly what you want to have it be actually very relevant to you. For example, like poker players, like freedom, like having the choice, right? Having the choice to be anywhere, anytime, like with whoever you want, right? Like that could be uh, a few reasons there. But then thinking, okay, what do I need to get there, and if I want to pay the price, right? And I think that's a fair question. Like, do I like what do I need to get there? Like, and do I want to pay that price? Like, I think you should ask yourself, like, maybe I don't want to pay the price. Like, face it. Like, maybe, yeah, like having a Lamborghini like would be really cool, but the price for that, I don't know. Like grinding, like really focusing on other stuff and like letting life pass you by in a way, like not doing the stuff you enjoy with your life. So I do think that's important. Like doing all this time, it's like you're like moving towards goals, like having it be enjoyable themselves all this time, because that's kind of like what I decided. Like it's not really worth it, like for like sig mad goal, if it's like gonna be like, let's say like 5 years of like really hard work, but I hate myself, like I really hate life during that. It's not the goal I want, right?
Yeah,
it's not.
it's much more important whether you enjoy poker and you enjoy studying and you enjoy playing and you enjoy improving right now. That is much more important, and also I think more relevant to your success than having that super specific goal that once you reach it, it will feel nice for some time, for
Yeah.
sure, but it will very quickly become boring as well. When you bought that Lambo, you will be super happy for a few weeks or months with it, and then it becomes nothing special anymore.
Yeah.
So, and I think even if you're thinking about results, I think your results will be better if you're focusing more on the progress, focusing more on the enjoyment and the challenge, the everyday challenge, than on the end result.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah. And
if you're playing well, if you love studying, if you love improving, some form of positive result will come out, whether it's the Lambo or it's just the Porsche or whatever.
Yeah.
It will be a positive result regardless. And you will also, you will enjoy life in the process much more than when you're only focusing on that one very specific goal.
Yeah. So you want to be more like that, because yes, someone in the chat, so Thierry said, like, don't you think that this motivation mostly comes from other factors and not money? Like some people just want to excel at something. So more like focusing on being very good on what you do, right?
Yeah. I think that's actually, I would say that's the best predictor of becoming good at something there is by far, that you really love doing whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
And
So maybe
enjoy improving and enjoy learning.
So maybe the focus should be on like having like what's that challenge for you right now, and like challenging yourself right now. And if you do that, like that's enjoyable for you, right? Like challenging yourself, competing, let's say with poker, like finding joy in poker itself, and then the other stuff will come and like the goals will kind of like would be like the side effect. But if you grind for those like future goals, it's kind of like, I think subconsciously you tell yourself you're like paying a price. You're like sacrificing the now for the then, if that makes sense. Whereas maybe you want that more of like side effect if you go to that sick life, whatever that you envision it. Yeah, it's important to know what it is, but maybe it's more about like making it, the priority is still making it enjoyable in the now. Like the day-to-day life, the road there should be very enjoyable. What if it's not enjoyable? What if you decide like, I don't know, this is like, I want to get there, this is what takes me there, but like I don't really like it.
That's a really, really good question. And I think that's a question that a lot of players should ask themselves now, because most most of the people I talk to, they've been playing for 10 to 15 years. So poker has, I did a survey on Instagram once, and I think something between 60 or 70% answered that poker has mostly become a boring grind for them. And the question is, can you regain that joy of poker? Are there ways to start enjoying it again more? Or are you honestly, you have to answer yourself honestly, am I at the point where it's not possible for me to regain that joy and I should be looking for something else? And that is, of course, is for one, not easy to answer. And if you answer it with yes, I should stop playing poker, then of course there are some really hard steps to take in the future. But I think there are ways to regain that joy of poker. And actually, I didn't even get there when I, in the intro, when I started, it was a rather short phase, but I did have like a second short phase in my poker career where I played for another 6 months.
Yeah.
And then I actually enjoyed it again. There were some good games on mobile apps, and it was 2 years after I finished my studies, so I had improved a lot on the mindset side.
Yeah.
And I really did enjoy playing those games, and I also enjoyed learning about them and so on.
Yeah.
So there are ways that you can enjoy the challenge again and enjoy playing poker. One, there's many possibilities to do that, but one would be, for example, learning a new game, learning a new format of poker, or playing the same game, but for example, live instead of online, or playing more tournaments, playing less tournaments, mixing it up a little bit. But I think the most important or the most valuable or most effective thing to do is to be focused on more than just the financial outcome. Not make your sense of enjoyment so much dependent on how well you perform during the session, but instead to focus more on finding leagues, finding interesting spots, playing creative lines, and finding working on these small little details that you easily neglect when you're either in the grind autopilot mode, or when you're tired, or when you're in general not feeling well. So one thing you could do is take a few days off, take a week off, whatever, and then take a few days to focus on certain things, identify leaks that you have, or learn new concepts that you want to apply, or as I said, learn a completely new game. So it of course, if the game is not new to you, if you've been playing it for 10 years, it becomes harder to find those little challenges. Yeah. But if you've never consciously done it, then there's, of course, still a lot of room for improvement in many small little things that you can focus on.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a very, very important point for everyone watching as well. And like, I definitely agree with that. I think it's underestimated, like finding the joy in poker. Because, come on, let's be real. Poker fucking sucks a lot of the time when you're like, it's like so unique in that way. It's like so challenging for people because you give it your all and you just like get crushed like day after day after day. Like it's definitely like hard to like, oh, I love this. It's like, it's amazing. Like, of course you will have, it's something that can punish you. Like when you give it your best, it still punishes you. I think it's hard to like, oh yeah, this is like amazing. Like, of course you will be unhappy with it. You will have phases. So I think that's why it makes it even more important that think to yourself, like, what are the parts I enjoy in poker? What are like, even if it's something that like, of course it's still relevant for your game, right? It's still like good for like helping you improve and whatever. It's not like making charts, because I also like making charts, for example, like Excel spreadsheets. I don't know, but what are the parts of the game that I enjoy? For some people, like I really like talking about hands with friends. Like I really like watching training videos. I like the GTO trainer.
That's a really good point. You can look for these things a little outside of just playing as well. For example, the many ways you can meet cool, interesting people through poker, or talking about hands, finding poker related activities and poker related ways of income, for example, becoming a streamer, becoming a coach, whatever that may be. There's many things that are very directly related to poker that are not just blindly grinding the whole day.
I think that's, yeah, because of like how poker is, like how it works for your mind. I think it's even more important to like proactively ask yourself, like, how can I make this enjoyable? Like, what are the parts? And that's what I tell people when they ask me about improving as well. Like I tell them, like, what do you naturally enjoy more, and like lean more towards that. Because if I tell them like, oh, Biosolver, bro, like that's the shit. Like some people should not force themselves to like just grind in Biosolver. I just like happen to like that. I like being in the lab. I like just like looking at the sims, coming up with new strategies. But for example, MMA Sherdog, everyone knows here, very, very successful player. he improves a lot by playing and like kind of like observing other people, and like observing the top players, what they do, and kind of deconstructing that and implementing stuff in his game. I spent way more time in Biosolver than him. Like it's more successful than me, so it's not like, oh, just do Biosolver. He would be glad to hear that. So admitting that. So I think that's why I said, like, it's like what works for you, and like know what works for you, and then like when it comes to improving, and go with that. It's not like there's not like, oh, but that's how Linus did it. That's not like how this like what this guy says. No, I think it's more important, like you said as well, like find the parts you enjoy, and you will get better. And I don't know, some people really like playing with the HUD. I don't really use the HUD. Some people like are killers who like exploiting other people with HUD. So I think like move to your strengths. Probably that's what makes it more enjoyable, right? Like that's kind of like you're naturally strong in some areas, and go more towards that, and keep it enjoyable. Nice. Keep it going. What do you think are, so we talked about this, like what do you think are some other factors that, so we talked about people being just comfortable, right? Like they don't really have the motivation for it. I think another one, just like to quickly mention, that is talent. Sorry guys, but not everyone will make it to high stakes, no matter how hard you grind. And I think that's something it should be mentioned, like, oh yeah, but like, I don't believe myself, like I've worked with tons of people, I don't believe everyone, like anyone can take anyone from the streets, whatever, and like, oh, he can be a high stakes pro. I don't believe that. And I saw many people try and not succeed. I've been coaching people, like, and I see, like, I don't know, they just don't get it. They just cannot execute well in game. I don't know what it is. It's like being successful player at high stakes just takes so many different skills and abilities that some people just don't have them all. It's not to say some people are like, oh, not smart enough or whatever, don't have the, I'm not that good. They will just excel at other stuff. They just have those abilities they have would be better, like would serve them better maybe in another area. And I think that has to be addressed as well. It's not like, oh, everyone can make it and just like follow this recipe. Some people, I don't know, like some abilities, you just don't have them naturally. If you just like tilt too easily, maybe you cannot be a high stakes pro. If you cannot be disciplined with your bankroll, you just cannot be a high stakes pro, right? So there are some stuff that like kind of disqualify you, and like you do need some amount of talent for that. But that aside, on a more positive note, what do you think are like some other things in your experience from people you've worked with, like that keep people from like going to that mid stakes level to like crushing like the high stakes?
It's one thing that you talked about in an older video of yours that I watched just before the podcast, and that is having the right environment. So having the right people around you. And I would say apart from or second to the enjoyment of poker and having a passion for poker, I'd say your environment is the second biggest factor of them all. Having people that you like talking to, it doesn't really help if somebody's really good at poker that you don't get along with. And that sometimes like these coaching or study groups, they are way too much based on how good people are right now and too little on how well they get along together, how well they get along and how well they can work together. And often people are super picky and even a little bit arrogant about it and say, I want people around me who are better than me, who can push me, who can make me better, and not thinking about what they can give to the group.
Yeah. Why would they want you around, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's much more important that you're all motivated and that you're able to work well together. I have 2 clients who play like low to mid stakes, but they are absolute animals in terms of motivation, in terms of mindset, and in terms of how they approach the game. And I know quite a few high stakes players who could be really, really happy to have those guys in their peer group, because they are, like I said, they're absolute animals in terms of work ethic and how they approach the game.
Yeah, they have that hunger, right? Like at high stakes, it's like very easy to lose that hunger and like lose that like really like passion, that drive that maybe like a lot of the lower stakes people have, right? So maybe that's something you can offer if you have that hunger, like to someone who's like playing high stakes or like it's like better than you on paper.
Yeah, and even if, let's say, you're by far the best player in the group, you can still benefit from others when you are coaching, because one of the very best ways to get good at something or to improve at something is becoming good at explaining it. Because there's still a big difference between understanding something and being able to apply it reasonably well and really fully understanding it, so you can explain it in a simplified version to somebody else. That will also improve your skill a lot and your ability to apply it, because the more you are able to simplify it, the more automatic it becomes for you. The easier it will be to apply it even under pressure. Let's say something maybe that you're only to do when you're on your A game. If you practice again and again explaining that to somebody and give personal and practical examples how you apply it to that person and so on, it will become more automatic and more easy for you as well. And then of course, so there's something that you just mentioned. Different people have different strengths. Like one person might be really good at building a good hut and maybe good at explaining to others why he uses it that way. Then the others will benefit much more from that hut than if they just copy it.
Yeah.
If somebody built a really nice hut and you just give it to somebody and he doesn't know how to use it or why you use it in a certain way, it will be much less beneficial than if somebody really is able to explain it to you. Of course, same goes for anything else, using the solver, doing play and explain, or somebody who's really good with his health routine, with his lifestyle. There's so many different things that people can bring to a group, which makes them more efficient and also much more enjoyable. You also can talk about random shit. If you like to play the same video games, watch the same series, or so it can also become a social factor that helps you enjoy being in the group, and not just being about like this, I have to be a efficient machine, part of the machine in that group. It also becomes much more of a enjoy life thing.
I like that. So you would also agree that having a group around you that are like similar, or like who they want to make it in poker, they're motivated to grind and stuff, you would say that's also a key factor. Maybe that's why a lot of people don't really make it to the next level. That's like not having that support group, which can be hard, right? Like as a poker player, you're not the most social beings, right? Like you're just like in front of your PC alone a lot of the time. You're in the lab, and I think that can be a challenge for people to like reach out to people. Like, so I would say like, just be in communities, join communities, whatever, like try to just put yourself out there, which I know it's hard as a poker player. I like almost like naturally introverted. It's like, it's hard to put yourself out there, but I would say, it's just, I kind of like looking at myself when I was in Malta, living with 2 other poker players, like MMA and Eraser, like both of them like good, like very good poker players. It's easy to just like play poker all day. It's easy to like think about poker, like just get better and like enjoy it more. And I would say probably that's the best way. Just like live with someone that, oh, you, like you said, important to just get along fine with them as well. So not like, oh, they're just like good, but I think they're shit as a person. Yeah, that will not work, right? Like there's a lot of people like that in poker. Although to be honest, I don't know. Like a lot of the guys I know are really cool, actually. But I know there's like, I don't know, like some more annoying people out there, I guess. There should be. I just don't know many. I think that's probably the main way. Maybe do a grind house if this is a priority for you. This, from my experience, I'm looking at myself now, like I'm living by myself. I don't have poker grinders like around me, like in the same building, right? So I find myself like, wait, it's harder to stay motivated. It's harder to do like just have my mind on poker than like just being surrounded with those guys. You go with them to dinner, you go with them to the gym. Inevitably, you like talk about the hand, or like talk about like some concept, whatever. It's just like way more like part of your life. So probably like, yeah, having that group, having that environment, probably is what a lot of people don't do right as well, right? So it's not something people want to hear, right? Because it's uncomfortable putting yourself out there, like getting in touch with people.
Yeah, you have to deal with rejection, which we talked about earlier. And often the first attempt of building a group doesn't succeed. Often they end up being a Discord channel where people complain about bad beats, complain about how poorly they're running. But it's worth trying again. And I would say, try to make it as personal as possible. If you're only forming a chat channel, it's probably not going to go anywhere. You will not really get to know the other person. You will not really be able to fully interact with each other. So try to meet in person if possible. If not, do video calls, do more than just chatting, and try again if the first group dies after some time. Maybe keep that one person that you got along with well and start again. And there will be failed attempts for sure, but it's definitely worth trying.
Yeah, this is where, by the way, not having a girlfriend is so high EV. When it comes to grind houses and being able to move around, because I think that like the kind of freedom of like, oh yeah, like I put my professional life first, and like being able to like, like Matthias said now, like, yeah, hook me up with people to make a grind house. You can move to Belgrade if you want. So like, I think it's very high EV to not have a girlfriend in some ways, right? Because you're like kind of tied down to a
professional poker player as well. That would be the highest EV would be to date a professional poker player.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, could be actually. Could be. Shout out to the many professional girl poker players out there. I feel better day to day with girlfriend. Yeah, I think it's up to priorities and like what stage in life you are. But like now, like having a relationship for like for some time, like I kind of feel like, I don't know, like if I want to do some sick like poker crypto shit, like I cannot leave here. That's kind of makes it harder. So guys that you're like still a virgin, you're like don't have girls in your life, say yeah, I'm winning, bro. Mattia knows. Okay, never mind. Okay, so yeah, having that environment, I think that's I do agree there. Like that's maybe like what people go wrong as well. Actually, I would want to add one that I have been struggling with. Like I definitely struggled with, and kind of like limiting yourself, like not feeling like you even deserve more than this. And I think, especially for me and Mattia here, like maybe that's a factor for us. Or maybe like from people like, I don't know, more like poorer countries, poorer background, like when you make it, you kind of make it, right? Like compared to your peer group, to like a lot of people. And like why have more? Like why would you deserve more when like, I don't know, you're like upbringing, like your parents, you're like everyone you know, you're like doing much better than them. Why do you deserve more? And it's something I struggled with. I do remember, like I feel it's crazy how this works, right? Because rationally you would never say like, no, I don't want more than this. But thinking back, I can definitely see a lot of points in time where my bankroll was staying at the same level, and I was trying, but in a crazy sick way, maybe I was like sabotaging myself, And I realized that one time, I remember vividly this one point in Malta. I was playing high stakes. I was crushing it. Like everything was going well, and I was actually on an upswing. I was running good, and you would think like, okay, that's awesome, but I felt myself pretty uncomfortable at the tables. Like even though like I was running well, I was doing well, and at some point, I lose a few pots, a few big pots, and in a very very weird twisted way, I felt good about it. It's like, oh yeah, nice.
Yeah,
That's
now you're back to that level where you should be.
yeah, exactly. It's like, oh yeah, like it made me feel, oh yeah, like this is how things are. Like when you cannot run good forever, you need to lose it back. You need to lose a lot of it back or whatever, like go down again. And I realized I felt more comfortable when I lost some big pots. And I'm like, wait, what the fuck is this? Like this, like what's happening here? And I realized, yeah, it's a lot of it is like my reality is like you cannot just win forever. You cannot just like go up and up. You don't deserve it. Like it's not part of reality. That's not how things work. How things work, like yeah, you go up, but then you go back down. And I think this is a way I was subconsciously really limiting myself for a long time. And I think it's kind of like you get like through like hurdles, like you have like this roof, but then you just move it up. I don't think, at least in my experience, just like remove it completely and just like become Elon Musk, whatever. Um, what's your experience with that? Do you think like people like have this, like in your experience, like people can like feel they don't deserve more than what they currently have, and that's kind of like, even though they could really crush it, but they kind of keep themselves down like subconsciously. What's your take
For
there?
sure, that's actually a fairly common issue, not only amongst poker players, but pretty much anything where you achieve more success or more fame or whatever it may be than your peer group. Whenever you stick out, when you become more famous, more successful, that can even be on a ridiculous level. Like I sometimes feel like this with my 300 YouTube followers and my 1,000 Instagram followers. And nobody of my friends does anything similar.
Yeah.
So I'm the most famous person in my peer group, and that sometimes feels weird and uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes for pretty much anybody who sticks out from a group. But because again, it comes down to rejection and wanting to be part of the group. It can be very unpleasant and weird to stick out from your group because you're more visible, you're more salient, you're also more open to being attacked or criticized.
Yeah.
You will have more people who are jealous of you, more people will see your stuff, and therefore more people will criticize you. I, for example, get this sometimes. Like if I put out a video and I get like 100 likes, but one guy writes a really weird negative comment, I think about that one negative comment all the time and not about the 100 likes I get.
Yeah.
And the same probably goes for poker. If you're a successful poker player, a lot of people will congratulate you and say, well done, awesome. I'm glad you made it. I really wish you, I'm not jealous of you. I wish you all the best. But then, of course, there's a few haters, a few people who are jealous or who will criticize you or tell you, I don't know, you were just lucky, you're a scammer, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Being successful, being visible makes you vulnerable in a way and makes you stick out from the group, which can be very unpleasant. And that's something you have to step by step get used to. Like you just said, you're not just blowing away the roof completely. Maybe there will be some big aha moments where you really get a lot more comfortable with it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say, for example, I don't know what, maybe if the poker metaphor would maybe if you for the first time make a really big final table and all of a sudden you're exposed to all the media, you're exposed to a lot of people, and you learn to deal with that. Might be unpleasant at the beginning, but afterwards maybe you have this big aha moment that you're actually able to deal with that level of fame and success. Or maybe from my niche, the example would be if you for the first time speak in front of a lot of people, mm-hmm. and you realize it's not killing you, it's weird, you're nervous, it's uncomfortable in the beginning, but you're actually growing through that and learning to accept and deal with it.
Yeah, I like that. So it's kind of like it's just something you learn, you just get more comfortable with time. So probably there it's like also a lot, like the people you have around, if they're also like very successful, probably it's easier for you to accept, okay, maybe I can do this as well. I think that's for me, moving to Malta, like living with MMA, living with people, just like crushing it, like making like, I don't know, oh, I'm up like 50K today. It's like, oh, wait, this is real. Oh, this is possible. Okay. So again, I think that's kind of like where the role of like the people you have around is so powerful. Because yeah, if you're like, yeah, by far stand out from your group of friends, like, I'm already pretty like far out, right? Like the people compared to the people around me, it's not easy to even go higher, right? Like why even? It's kind of weird. Like why? Like look at this. Like I'm way better off. Like why would I even, like, instead of like complaining, oh no, I want more. Like just like shut up, just be grateful for what you have, right? It's kind of like having that pressure. Mattia has a lifelong dream of doing stand-up in front of a crowd as a way to face my fears. Okay.
That's actually a great way to do it, I would say. And you can also try to shift your mindset a little bit, and instead of focusing on, I don't want to stick out from my group, I don't want to be like that. Even if you're not arrogant, and even if you're not, I don't know, lost contact with people, you might feel like you do, just because you're doing what you're doing, just because you're more visible, you're more successful than others. Even though it's in reality not true, you're still the same person.
Yeah.
It might feel like that. What you can do is, instead of asking yourself, how can I stay low? How can I lay low? How can I be less visible? Ask yourself, what can I do to help my peers around me, to lift them up? How can I use my experience or the resources I have, the money I've made, or the whatever it may be? It doesn't only have to be money.
If they want to, right? If they want to, because they will say, oh, it's like arrogant, he's just so much better than me. I think that's also a danger. If they don't ask you for help, I would say my experience, just don't offer help, because they would say, oh, like what, like you're better than me, you know, like they feel threatened. Like instead of like, oh wow, awesome, this guy wants to like help me move up as well. I think if it doesn't come from them first, then probably just don't do it. Because
of course, don't be the guy who tells somebody you have to do this because I did it and it worked for me. I think, but what you can do is be a good role model and show what you're doing and how it is helping you, how it is improving your life. For example, exactly what you just said was very, very true. When I changed my diet, when I was starting to eat healthy, I tried to convince my friends to do it as well.
Exactly.
And they would make fun of me. They would get pissed about it. It would become a running joke, the things that I ate. And now more and more, I changed my approach. I would just talk about how much I enjoy it, how much I enjoy cooking, how much better I'm feeling, but not telling people you have to do it as well. And now slowly, one after another of my friends is starting to eat healthier as well, and asking me for advice and talking about it with me and enjoying it as well.
Yeah, they're seeing the light. Okay. What do you think? Like, does anything else like come up when you're thinking like what's like kind of like again keeping people at that like mid stakes level? What, like, from breaking out of their like current grind, right? Is there something else that comes to mind?
Yeah, definitely. One big thing that you also talked about in your video is getting help, not only from your peer group, but actually getting coaching. And especially in like the German speaking countries, we have this mindset of coaching or training or whatever costs money. It's a loss of money. And they are very stubborn about seeing the long-term results. And that's where we get to the sell-out part, my coaching or your coaching. We don't do this because we think it's an easy way to steal money from people. We do it because we, from our own experience, know how much it changes, how much easier it makes life. Basically, what you're doing is you are making the use of your time more efficient. You're not blindly stumbling around, trying out everything by yourself, but you're getting input from other people who've already been there and done that and have the experience. We're not exactly telling you what to do, but we're helping you move in the right direction. You, of course, have to figure out a lot of the stuff for yourself. You have to find your own way, maybe in the mental game part even more than in poker strategy. In poker strategy, there is GTO. It's a little more obvious what the optimal line is. in psychology, it's not that obvious, but either way, we're helping people move into the right direction, but not telling them exactly which path to take.
Yeah.
And I would say the biggest reason for getting coaching is simply because it saves so much time and energy. It makes it more efficient.
Yeah, yeah. I really like that. I actually, that's a topic. I think it's very interesting, and I definitely find myself guilty of that, and it's something I've been talking about with MMA as well. I think it's like, yeah, not having this investing process. Like, oh yes, I am spending something, yes, right? Like I am, oh, spending money, getting rid of money, and that's where people I have this as well, like my upbringing and like my environment, like, oh, I'm just like giving money away, like, am I crazy, why I do that? But the investing mindset, like, yeah, I give that money away and I get more in return. It's not like just ends there, like, oh, I get something in return. And some, like, a good example there I have, like, I really like when people have this investing mindset. And actually, yeah, like what made me believe more in coaching, because I was also very skeptical about coaching, like for a long time as well.
And you should be, because other than other products, it's not that obvious how good the product is. Like
yeah,
a coach telling you you will achieve X or Y, you have to really find out if that is true, if the coach is capable of getting you there.
yeah, for
When
sure.
you buy a car, you pretty much know what you get. With coaching, it's a little more difficult to find out.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. Yeah, exactly. Do your research and like kind of be picky. But like I would say, yeah, like actually, so yeah, how I believe in coaching and like how valuable it is like from me giving coaching to so many people and like seeing the impact it had on them, and like, wait, what the fuck? Like compared to what they gave me, like where they paid me, they got way more in return, and like they had like this sick progress, and like, fuck, actually coaching is actually a very smart thing. It's like that's kind of like made me like really like realize, like cement that idea in my head. If I want to get good at something, I would just rather pay for it and really save time and cut that learning curve from someone who really knows what they're doing, instead of like just like blindly going around. It's like, just whatever, fuck it, just go faster with it, go way faster. And like something I was gonna say is like very impressed by, I was approached by this kid, 18-year-old kid, plays poker, shout out to him, from Romania. um he was playing NL50, NL100, NL50 actually, and he approached me for coaching. And like when someone NL50, like, I don't know, sorry bro, like you just don't have money for it. It doesn't make sense for you to get me as a coach. Maybe I improve when we're playing, I don't know, NL200 or more, then maybe approach me for coaching. So, but he actually still wanted to, like I said, he said like, oh no, yeah, like I had like saved up 10K and I still want to get coaching from you because it makes sense. Just like go like get from like a very strong player, like from one of the best, from like a strong player, and I think it makes sense as an investment. So what I really liked about it, okay, like that's a very healthy mindset to have, and he really saw it as an investment. It's like, okay, I'm paying you this money, and I'm trying to make it back and more, because of I'm giving you like quite a big sum of money. I was surprised, like he's 18 and he has this very mature mindset of like, I know that's a lot of money for him, and like he's playing NL50, like, so. And then like he took my coaching, he like really like learned really fast from it. He was a smart guy, and like very shortly after, it's like, oh yeah, I made my investment back, cool. It's like,
Yeah.
wow, that's like such a healthy mindset to have. It's like, okay, this is how much I invested, oh, I already made it back, awesome. Like that's, and I think like a lot of us struggle with having that mindset, like myself as well. Like it's very hard, like even at high level, we have some of these ideas ingrained, like I don't want to spend money on stuff.
It's very deeply ingrained with us through our education and upbringing. I think nowadays I've spent probably like, I don't even know, like 20,000 euros, I guess, on further education, on trainings and coachings.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely gonna say this is by far the best investments I've ever made. And still sometimes I catch myself struggling with, should I pay that person money or should I try to figure it out myself? And I'm kind of happy. Right now I'm doing the psychotherapy training, and you have to get 130 hours of self-experience in there.
Yeah.
And you have to do it. You don't even have the option to think about it.
Okay.
And I'm kind of happy about that. because once I started with it, I of course right away realized it's absolutely worth the money.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I was thinking, damn it, 100 euros per hour, that's expensive. Once I started doing it, I was like, of course, that's amazing. It's a good thing that you have to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's catching yourself, right? Like it's easy to like, like whatever, like I can do, like, yeah, nowadays I want to spend money on stuff like, oh, it's more likely it will actually be good. I want to save time. I want to get taught by a pro. Like, why would I like just like fumble around on the internet for hours and hours when I can just pay some money, get that value? If it's important for me, yeah, okay, maybe I will not, I don't know, pay money for random shit, but like if it's something important or enjoyable or whatever, yeah, actually, I think it's a good thing that I get to pay money for it. If I would get something for free, that's kind of weird. Like, why? Because it also makes me more invested if I spend money on it, especially if it's a kind of a significant amount. Yeah, more likely I will follow through, and that's what I saw. Like my best students by far, and my best performing students were the guys who were like, oh, this was a lot of money for them.
That's exactly the same for me. I was about to say the same things. I have one PLO 50 and one PLO 100 players for whom, of course, the coaching was a big investment. And they are by far the most motivated clients I have.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. So that's definitely like coaching and like kind of investing in yourself. Not even like just like getting your nutrition on point. Maybe I should do this as well. Like get your nutrition as well on point. Like getting like a gym trainer. Like there are guys who are, you need this kind of like professional mindset. Are you a pro or not? If you are a pro, like you are expected to invest in yourself and like get returns like that instead of like, I think that's kind of like a poor minded person mindset of like, oh, but it costs money. And like, I'm trying to get rid of that as much as I can. But it's definitely very important to do it. Okay. Any
Actually,
other point?
since I have another call in an hour,
yeah.
Can we move on to the questions that the chat has?
Sure. Yeah, I wanted to wrap it up as well. Yeah.
Practice what I preach and take a short break before I do the next call.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
If there's any really interesting questions, let's get into them.
Perfect. Yeah. We have been going. Yeah. Wow. We have been going for a while, and yeah, we definitely touched on a lot of stuff. I think. Yeah. It definitely will help a lot of people out. A lot of guys in the chat here. As well, let's see. Yeah, let's get like, if you guys have some questions for Jan, put them in the chat. I know I have one written down from the beginning. Question for both Daniel and Jan: is it okay to block emotions while at the tables? I find it the best for myself since I don't want my poker results to affect my real life.
I'd say the simple answer is no, because trying to suppress or block an emotion, it will only mean that it will come up later. Of course, it can be really difficult to deal with it in the moment, and it's something that you have to practice outside of your playing time. For example, through meditation or other exercises. When you learn to face your emotions, learn to accept them, deal with them, they will affect your behavior less than when you're trying to suppress them. Very common example, if you again and again you're suppressing your anger, at some point it will boil over and turn into a full-on tilt. If instead every time you're getting bad beat, you're taking just a second to acknowledge your anger, say, I'm angry, I feel anger somewhere. Ideally, you are practicing also like your physical and emotional awareness by asking yourself, where do I feel that anger? Is it, I don't know, do I get tense? Do I start getting jittery? Or is it an uneasy feeling in my stomach? Whatever it may be. Acknowledge it, observe it for a second, and you will take away a lot of its power. Instead of constantly suppressing it or thinking about it, why am I angry? I shouldn't be angry. I have to get rid of this anger. Just allow yourself to be angry, and with a very high chance that will take away a lot of its power. Actually, the more you're trying to fight it, the more energy and time you're wasting on it, the more you're learning to accept it and not trying to fight it, the less it will affect your behavior.
Yeah. Just punch the desk. My personal tip there. I don't really get angry, but like, it's actually very funny for me. It's like, I don't know, I just get tilted at one spot, like a hand, just like very makes me angry in the moment. I just like let out like fuck, like boom, like smash, just like boom, like smash the desk, I don't smash things because like whatever, like I have to buy them then, like screens or stuff. Just like smash the desk, like boom, let it out, and then like boom, then I fine. Then I that's it. Okay, next time.
Mhm. Yeah, well, I would say that's a good approach. If you say, I'm allowing myself to be angry, I am angry, and that's why I'm punching the table.
Yeah.
And the problem would only be if you afterwards get angry at yourself for punching the table,
Mm-hmm.
for telling yourself, oh, I shouldn't be angry. That was a bad thing to do.
Yeah.
And not allowing yourself to be angry and having that angry reaction. Then again, it would turn unhealthy.
Yeah. 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 Okay. So yeah, it's like allowing that is actually it's
Mhm.
actually good. Mattia asks, is letting your ego take over for a while worth it when trying to motivate yourself to push higher? I know long term it isn't sustainable, but could it make sense in shorter periods?
Um, well, it depends on what exactly you mean letting your ego take over.
So I guess it's kind of like having that lower motivations, kind of like, oh fuck this guy, or like whatever, I'll show them. It's kind of like having, I don't know, like some hate, some anger in there, right? So like kind of like not like, oh, higher spiritual stuff, right? Like mindset, but having that more
Yeah,
like killer mindset, that more like, yeah, like fuck these guys, like I'm gonna crush them, like I'll show them, or I don't know. I'm guessing it's more like ego, right? It's kind of like me versus them, and kind of like that
yeah.
competitive side. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I would agree with what you just said. It's a lower type of motivation. It can definitely work. For example, in MMA, you hear people talking themselves into hating the opponent, and it works for some people. But I would say both for long-term success and for your peace of mind, it's better to have those higher motives in mind as often as possible. And sometimes they can be a little more aggressive and competitive.
Yeah.
For example, what I absolutely love is being competitive in a friendly way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't enjoy hating my opponent in any game,
Yeah.
but I do enjoy beating my friends at a game
Yeah.
and trash talking.
Yeah.
And I think that can be a higher form of motivation, simply enjoying being competitive and enjoying winning at something without wishing the other person bad luck or wishing to inflict harm upon them. Like, you see those, I don't know, usually the fighters who had a harder upbringing, let's say like Cody Garbrandt, I would say. I think he genuinely gets angry in fights.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't say it works for him to a certain degree, but I don't think that's good for his quality of life and
Yeah.
for his happiness.
Yeah.
Then you see somebody like, I don't know, Stephen Thompson, for example. I think he's more genuinely enjoying what he's doing, and he's super competitive as well, of course.
Yeah.
But as you know, he's the nicest motherfucker in the world.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think this is a healthier and more enjoyable and more sustainable form of motivation that still has a certain aggressiveness and competitiveness to it.
Yeah, I think also I may have misinterpreted his question. He said like building yourself, but definitely a lot of people feel that as well. So, but he said like, yeah, like building yourself to being actually one of the best, like letting yourself battle and so on, which is kind of like involves the same thing. But you kind of touched on that, right? You want that competitive nature, but kind of like in a good way, in a way. So kind of like in like in an enjoyable manner, not like okay, it's like feeling threatened or like feeling like no, it's actually being motivated for that. Okay. Yeah, you're welcome, Mattia. Sam AV asks, how long did it take you to make your first 50K profit? Yeah, have patience. Like for me, actually, yeah, like having like 50K profit depends like if you put expenses in there or not. But yeah, growing my bankroll to 50K took way too many years. Took me like and also like I did not get coaching. So like, yeah, I had like a period of like 3 years where I was like playing NL100, where I was like 3 years, like just same bankroll, and like I was very close to quitting poker actually, and then I blew up. So yeah, it's very easy to see all these stories of like people just like making it very fast or like and kind of comparing yourself to that and like fuck. So I think that maybe that's why he asked. So yeah, it's fine if it takes like a few years, as long as you still enjoy it, you still believe in yourself, you still believe that's the right thing for you. Whatever, who cares? Like how long it takes, as long as you're like moving in the right direction. That's my take on that. Okay, Jan, let's wrap this up. Definitely a lot of good info. I know you already have quite a few clients. You already like have like you're working with like the PLO mastermind, like Jane Andes group. If people like they saw this podcast, okay, like this guy, I like how he thinks, I like his approach, I like his style. How can they get in touch with you? And yeah, see from there. Maybe like get some coaching, maybe like ask some questions.
Yeah, if somebody is interested, and I think you said something really important, I'm not the best coach for everyone. I'm the best coach for those people who agree with what I just said, because the single most important factor for success in therapy and coaching is having a good relationship with your coach or therapist. So I would never promise anyone that I'm guaranteed the right coach for them. We have to find out, and that's why I always do a free consultation call in the beginning.
Nice.
Where people just reach out to me, tell me what their goals are, what their problems are, and then I'd say, all right, let's have a call. Let's find out if I'm the right coach for you.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, just go to my website, which is jan-filippi.com/poker. Maybe because my family name is difficult to spell. Difficult to spell.
I will put it in the description as well. Yeah.
In the description.
Yeah. Already have it in the Discord. Shout out to the Discord group, to the Discord crew here. I already put it when I was announcing you. I saw you have like nice professional site there, so people can get in touch with you through your website. That's kind of like the main thing. I'll link up your Instagram as well, put it into the description. But yeah, it's basically Jan, and like how do you call that line thing?
I think minus.
Oh yeah, it's minus Filippi, like you see in the title of the video.
And /poker. If you only go to janfilippi.com, you will reach my German page, so that might be
OnlyFans page.
You have to add the /poker in the.
Okay, nice. So that's how they can get in touch. Let's see. David asked, looking forward to rewatch it. Would you put it on Spotify? Yeah, let's see. No promises, but yeah, I think maybe I will put it on Spotify as well. This was definitely a very, very nice episode. Yeah, very good for having it. Really glad we had this talk. I think we touched on a lot of stuff. I learned a lot of stuff. I'm actually also like looking forward to rewatch some portions of this. I really, I do like your approach. I really like your approach. I like I said earlier, I like that you don't have this one size fits all approach, and you really want to work with the people, like with a specific person. And yeah, I like that. I think we as poker players, we need someone who tells you like, yeah, bro, it's fine to take it a bit easier on yourself. It's like, I like that you have kind of compassionate approach. Like, bro, like, is this something that even like is good for you? Or like, is just like, oh, like just like shut up and grind or whatever. Like having like, do you even want this? Like, I really like that aspect of your approach. So yeah, thanks for coming on. Thanks for having this conversation. Really enjoyed it. And yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll keep in touch. Jan.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. Thanks for all the guys watching and for asking nice questions. And I think this was actually the longest talk I've ever done about poker. And it was really a lot of fun. We went in depth on a lot of things. And maybe some closing words. I just want to agree with what you just said. Taking it easier on yourself, being a little more friendly with yourself is actually healthier and more likely to make you successful, because it just gives you a better feeling. It gives you more motivation. It clears your head also a little bit in order to perform at what you want to be good at.
Yeah, awesome. So there you have it, guys. We talked about routines. We talked about like making it in poker. We talked about like having a network of friends, being good with yourself, like how, like what areas to focus on, what not to focus on, like handling like motivation. This is like a lot of good stuff. So thanks for joining the ride. Thanks for representing in the chat, keeping this interactive. And yeah, enjoy guys. Good luck, and see you around. Peace.
Goodbye.